worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. That's even outside of football. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is, he's not that good. This is a wild, wild quote. Brew, do you want the first crack at this?
Well, look, I like Shedeur. You guys know I think he's going to be a very good player in the NFL. I think he has a lot of the intangibles. You know, I'm a big intangibles guy with quarterbacks because a lot of the great ones have the intangibles, not just the physical.
It's also the only way to be a fan of Brock Purdy. You have to love the things
I
that you can't
think
be
Brock,
measured.
I mean, he can run, but, you know, we won't get to a Brock thing. But Shedeur is a leader. I think he's a good leader.
Yeah.
I think he is a smart quarterback. He's accurate. And so I think he's obviously got confidence. I'm not even talking about cockiness. He's tough. He's confident. And he's, you know, grown up in the spotlight, as big a spotlight as a player at his level could have because of his dad. So I think he'll be fine in that. So I like Shedeur. I think he's going to be good. Look, the quote is the quote. I read the article. The first, I don't know, 5 quotes were positive. Then there were a couple in the middle, then a couple negative. I feel like, I don't know if one of you guys is going to do it. Sometimes when I watch the commentary on Shedeur, I feel like there's people out there trying to protect him almost in a patronizing way, probably because they love Deion, and I like Deion too. But I just feel like people are like, oh, it's unfair. He's slipping. It's so unfair. This happens every year. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it's a mistake that he's slipping. But I'm just saying, I don't think we need to treat Shedeur with kid gloves because we love Deion. You know, and so I just think some of that's happening because you see people slipping all the time and they don't get, oh, it's so unfair. I literally saw people on TV, it's unfair. It's just the process. It's draft analysis. If you want to say you shouldn't quote, you know, guys negatively, anonymously, that happens all the time nowadays. Yeah. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I still feel like it's cowardly to do this. Like, and the things that was said, like entitled and, you know, bad teammate or blames teammates and all those things. We haven't heard one time any teammate that Shedeur's been a teammate with talk negative about him. Not one time. Not one time have we seen him get in an altercation with a teammate. And so, like, to have this come out, it's frustrating as someone who's gone through these processes, who sits down, who has sat down with teams, who has sat down with different coaches, and you want to put on your best self. It's not that you're trying to be fraudulent. Not that you're trying to mask anything, but Shedeur is a very unapologetic, authentic individual. He's going to be what he is, and he's not. Like I said, he's not apologetic about that, and sometimes that will rub people the wrong way. And if you feel that way, that's fine. But to simply say he's entitled and all the things that was said, he's a bad player, and it was like, come on, man.
Can we throw the quote back up, Dust? Sorry, I should have given you a heads up on that. But what was, because I have a question for you. What was odd to me about the quote was it was just scattershot. They're just very different things. The interview was awful. He's entitled. Okay, that's part of the interview.
Yep.
Takes unnecessary sacks. It's like that was, did you see week 6?
Right.
Horrible body language. I assume that was on the court. Blamed, or on the field, blamed his teammates, and he's not that good. So this guy does not like Shedeur Sanders, the player, then met him, and doesn't like Shedeur Sanders, the person. Got it. I think I'm in the middle on you guys about what's fair and what's not. And again, it's just, I can't explain it. The only anonymous quotes that I've always thought were out of bounds is when people are like, that guy's dumb. I never liked that. When it was openly basically questioning guys' intelligence, I always thought, I was like, how do you really know if the guy's smart or not? Like those in, what is football smart versus other things? That always felt, and maybe that's because that almost always felt like there were real racial connotations to it. I didn't like it. This other stuff, and this is the question I have for you is, if that really is how you feel about a player,
right,
and you are someone that talks to reporters anonymously and also gives glowing is the best, I've never had a better interview with a guy, then I feel like the only way your commentary is ever going to be taken seriously, it's like, hey, Got 5 players to tell you about. This one wowed me. These guys were not much of anything. And this was the worst 20 minutes of my life. I couldn't get. And so I didn't view it as unfair. I viewed it as cutting and caustic. I didn't view it as that unfair. And so I just don't know if we want to get unvarnished what people are saying about players. And it's up to the journalist to make sure, wait, hold on. Every quote you give me is negative. That means, you know what I mean? I'm not like up to the journalist to be like, okay, are you giving me the real here? I believe this guy. I believe that this guy really didn't like Shedeur the player and thought Shedeur probably, the fact that he doesn't think Shedeur's that good made Shedeur's confidence rub him the wrong way even more. Like if he walked into that interview thinking, man, this kid's awesome, then maybe Shedeur's confidence wouldn't rub him the wrong way. But he clearly walked into the interview thinking this kid's not that good to begin with. And then Shedeur's in there, you know, acting a certain way. He didn't like it. It didn't bother me as much as it did you, but I haven't been picked apart like that. So
yeah, and the reason why, when you look at the quote, it's like, it's one thing. It's like me looking at some of these guys in the draft, and I'll just talk about the receivers. I don't like all of them, but at this juncture in the draft process, it's like I don't hate everything I see about them. Like
you try to pick out the thing.
Like that's just odd to literally list almost every single thing in a negative light and frame it in a negative light. Like, come on, man. Like, it's one thing to talk about a player and you just, when I hear a quote, when I see a quote like this, and I immediately think that's a fair assessment of how he is on the field and what he is as a player. This is like, once you start talking about entitled, it's like you're starting to get into personality, how you feel he's carrying himself.
That's a part of the process,
matter a bit.
And tell me, right? So I guess if Shedeur, I'm not going to, if Shedeur, because he can't not be his dad's son, but if he didn't have all this glitz and glam and notoriety and the lights weren't on him, do you think that we're hearing this about him?
Oh, so no. So I think that cuts both ways, though. I think some people feel like, man, if he wasn't Deion's kid, we wouldn't have ever been talking about him as a top 5 pick. You know what I mean? I think that goes in both directions at times.
When I read the full article, I felt like I got a real good sense, a full view of what the league seems to think about Shedeur. Because a lot of it was positive. Some in the middle and some was negative. I felt like, okay, this is really what the league is saying about this guy. And as a writer, you know, if I was a former writer, obviously, like you have to decide, is this dude, like you said, Nick, is he always negative about somebody? You know, and if he's not, then this is really how he felt. I also, if I got a quote like that, there would have to be other people saying this. Like if I interviewed 10 people and all of them were positive and one guy's ripping him, I'm thinking he's got an axe to grind. Especially if I talk to people from the same organization that may have even been in the interview. Like, okay, he's got an axe to grind.
But
if you're hearing that from other people and this quote from him represents a group of other people in the league that feel this way, then it's giving you a balanced view.
Go ahead, Kid.
Yeah, well, again, Pelissaro wrote about, I think, the top 15 picks or his guess at it. And the Shedeur section was probably 80-20 positive.
Yes.
So we're focusing on this quote because it was felt outlandish, but most of it was positive. But here was the other negative quote. One longtime AFC executive, he didn't do great in our interview. He wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him, which I actually thought was smart. He makes you feel small, which I thought was an absurd.
Well, that's somebody's own self-consciousness.
You're right. When I saw that quote, I wondered, and I wish Pelissaro would have just made it clear, was that the same team? Because were those two guys in the same interview? If you say from another team, that means now this is two teams that didn't like the interview. You know what I mean? Like, because it could be the same interview, and maybe all the other ones
there's also this possibility that just like anyone, Shedeur can go into those meetings not wanting to be selected by that team as well. Okay. And so when I tell you, this is what I do best, and this is who I am, and this is where I'm best suited, and this is the offensive line that I like to have, and this is the protection that I like to be in, and this is the route that I like receivers to run on this. I'm just telling you. I'm just being honest.
Bomb the interview on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that he bombed it on purpose.
But it's
just
setting. I think. Sorry to interrupt. But if Shedeur knows there is, let's just say it's the Steelers. I know if I'm there at 21, the Steelers are taking me, and I feel comfortable there. And then I'm in an interview again. I'm making up the teams. I'm with the Saints, man, and I think Steelers are a better spot. So in this Saints interview, I'm going to make it very clear. Hey, this is almost my requirements, because that way, if you take me, you took me knowing there's the protection I want, there's the offense I want to run. That, you know, I'd rather be taken later by the Steelers, or if I'm going to be taken by you, it's going to be under these exact auspices. Listen, I think he is clearly not going to be the, I'll use Mahomes as the example, like, what is your answer to the question? Oh, it's exactly what a textbook would have said is the least polarizing, perfect answer to every question. You know what I mean? Like, that's, what is your, you know, what's the most important game, the next one? Who's your favorite teammate, all of them? Like, you know what I mean? Why are you here? God and the grace of it. He is going to be, I think, more of a three-dimensional person. And I think he's going to be like that in these meetings, at the podium, all of it. Yeah. And so I respect the fact that he, I think, is presenting who you're actually going to get. It's one of the reasons I respected Cam for saying to Peter King, I want to be an icon and an entertainer, and not hiding that from the Carolina Panthers are going to take #1 overall. Like, hey, that's what I want to, that's who you are going to get. But the flip side to that is certain teams are going to be like, not interested. Yeah. You know what and so like I think that's fair. And I think that, I know if we have time, I think we're going to talk about Jackson Dart for a minute. My guess is, okay, well, Jackson Dart, who might go ahead of him, I think Jackson Dart is probably playing these interviews way safer. I think Jackson Dart is like, man, everyone's going to say my handshake was firm. I said yes, sir, no, sir. And I had all these things because Jackson Dart's like, man, maybe I go 9 and maybe I go 78th. Like, let me ace this test. And I think Shedeur feels like, man, I'm going first round either way. Also, already rich and very famous. Like, I'm going to be like, and so there's just a lot of things that he is right to feel entitled about, so to speak.
Just to back that up, and we did on the Max Crosby podcast, we didn't put it was yesterday when he was like kind of openly flirting with the idea of throwing the ball to DK Metcalf and the Steelers.
Yeah.
He was. It's very like if Jackson Dart was like, I'll tell you who's going to be good. Whoever's the quarterback of the Saints.
Yeah.
So.
I think he feels confident that there is a floor of where he will be taken, and it is a floor he's comfortable with, which gives him, you know what I mean, a real power going into these interviews. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.